Ladies and gentlemen, I appeal to your intelligence, please. This is taught by Muhammad in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 106. ما ننسخ من آية أو نفسها أو ننسها. That's right. ما ننسخ Would you act like civilized people? ما ننسخ من آية أو ننسها. Is that what it says? Such of our revelation as we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, we bring in place one better of the like thereof. Knowest thou not that Allah is able to do all things? What is called the sword verse in Surah At-Tawbah annuls 120 verses which originally encouraged tolerance. One tradition has it that Aisha declared emphatically that the Surah As-Saff, the ranks, 61, had 200 verses during Muhammad's lifetime. When Muhammad actually died and Uthman standardized the Quran, the surah had only 72 verses. Incidentally, most any Quran you have has different verse numbers. The number of the annulled verses are so numerous because there are 40 surahs which are plagued with this major problem of a so-called inspiration. This concept is certainly very unacceptable and foreign to an all-wise God. Compare such belief of Muslim theology with what Christ Jesus announced according to Matthew 5:17 and 19. Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Whoever therefore breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. The problem with the Qibla. Another proof of this strange belief is recognized in that Muhammad communicated to his early followers in Mecca that the Qibla, the physical direction of their prayers, was toward Kaaba. Then he abrogated that once he migrated to Medina so as to please the predominant Jewish population. Now he emphasized to his followers they must turn toward Jerusalem. Surprisingly enough, 17 months later, Allah changed his mind for the second time by commanding Muhammad to look towards Mecca again and no longer Jerusalem when Muslims pray. A man makes mistakes, ladies and gentlemen, and needs to correct them, but such is not the case with God. God has infinite wisdom and cannot contradict himself. We must ask, does God have two Qur'ans if the system of abrogation is valid? We ask again, what does one do with this emphatic declaration in Surah Al-An'am 34? وَلَا مُبَدِّلٌ لِكَلِمَةِ اللَّهِ. And there is no changing or altering to the declaration or decisions of Allah. Muslims claim that the Quran was originally written on tablets preserved in heaven. This concept, however, is clearly borrowed from the Bible, because Exodus 32:16 tells us, now the tablets were the work of God, and the writing was the writing of God, engraved on the tablets. Muhammad professed to have a revelation through Gabriel when it suited his purpose. Many students believe, students of the life of Muhammad, messages came from heaven, were given to justify his political and moral conduct, as well as much of his religious precepts. Battles were fought, wholesale executions inflicted, wives added, and territories annexed under the pretext of the Almighty's command. Now, I want to challenge you. Mistakes in the Arabic of the Quran. You say you speak Arabic. Let's find out. Muslims believe that the Arabic Quran is the perfect, exact representation of Allah's word. That is why only the Arabic Quran is considered authoritative, and why so many Muslims who know no Arabic still feel a compulsion to memorize portions of the Quran in Arabic, although they cannot speak it and communicate with you. However, Muhammad used a number of foreign words or phrases in the Quran, leaving questioners wondering if God's language is deficient enough to need help from other languages. An orator demonstrates his speaking abilities by not borrowing expressions from other languages. How then do we have the opposite in a book which God himself is supposed to have inspired in Arabic? Foreign words. Pharaoh comes from the Egyptian language. Adam from the Akkadian language. Basharan should have been the word, or insan, which are the Arabic words. Ibrahim comes from the Assyrian. A more accurate word will be Abu Rahim. From Persian, we have Harut, Marut, Sirat, Hur, Jan, Firdaus. From Syria, Tabut, Taghut, Malakut, Zakat. From Hebrew, Habir, Sakina, Jahannam, Ma'un. From Greek, Injil, which means Bishara, good news. That is not all. Here is the Arabic Quran with words from Egyptian, Akkadian, Assyrian, Persian, Syriac, Hebrew, Greek. 7 languages. An Arabic reader is astounded also at the obvious mistakes in the following surahs. First, Surah Al-Baqarah 177. The word Sabirin should have been Sabirun, if you know Arabic. Then again, Surah Al-A'raf 160. وَقَطَعْنَاهُمْ إِثْنَتَيْ عَشَرَةَ أَسْبَاطًا should have been إِثْنَتَيْ عَشَرَ سِبْطًا. Surah Al-Nisa 162. وَالْمُقِيمِينَ الصَّلَاةِ should have been وَالْمُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ. Then Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 69. As-Sabi'in is the more correct Arabic than As-Sabi'un. Then At-Tawbah فَإِذَا انْسَلَخَ الْأَشْهُرُ الْحَرَامِ should have been فَإِذَا انْسَلَخ, plural. The words kun fayakun are a gross error in Arabic. The grammatical structure demands kun fakan, let there be and there was, not there shall be, as in the Quran. Yes, sir. Going forward, Abraham's father is wrongly called Azar in the Quran. At Surah Al-An'am, verse 74. The Bible, however, which is much earlier than the Quran, names him correctly Tarah. Abraham, summary of the Quranic errors concerning Abraham. Abraham didn't have 2 sons, he had 8. Genesis 25. Not 2 wives, but 3. He did not raise his descendants in the valley of Mecca, but in Hebron, which is called by his name in Arabic to this day, Al-Khalil, the friend of God, according to Isaiah 41:8 and Genesis. Genesis 11 discloses that his hometown was Ur in Chaldea, not Mecca. He wandered through Haran, as Genesis 11 recounts, not Arabia. He went to Canaan, as God instructed him in Genesis, not to Mecca's valley. There is no record that Abraham and Ishmael went to Arabia and built the Kaaba in Mecca, although he did spend several years in Egypt. In Surah Al-Saffat, those who set the ranks, verse 100 to 112, we read of Abraham's sacrifice of his son. But which son? The Bible states it was Isaac, Genesis 22, yet the Quran intimates it was Ishmael. The Arabs have considered Abraham as their earliest father through Hagar, Abraham's second wife, and Ishmael his firstborn son. As for Mr. Didat's question, my roots go back to Joktan Kahtan, who is the father of most of the people of Saudi Arabia. However, historically, the first father of the Arabs is this one, mentioned in Genesis 10:25, is named Kahtan in Arabic, Joktan in English. The names of some of his sons are reflected in geographical locations in Arabia, such as Sheba, Hazarmut, Ophir, Havila, until this very day. A third strain came from Abraham's nephew Lot, whose 2 daughters gave birth to the Nabateans, to the Moabites, and the Ammonites.